Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Hope everyone is okay. It is, Jesus Christ, 2:54 in the morning. Sunday. Let's do the news. No point in stopping now. We're moving. By the way, Monday, Max Blumenthal will be on the show. He's going to be available Monday morning. I've been hounding him all weekend to come on to talk and discuss Nicaragua. He will be the guy to know, and he is the person who's, if I am not mistaken, he's on the ground now. So he is apparently chasing a big story, and I don't necessarily know if he's going to break the story on the soapbox, but he is definitely going to talk about it. So Monday morning, he said he will be here on the soapbox. Yeah, I did just check my sound. So, two things. Well, one thing, just interesting and weird. Apparently, one of my subscribers, Jay Scott, has been plotting, working behind the scenes in order to get a hit video from somebody named BB Hammer. I have no idea who this person is. So that should be interesting. Everybody definitely be on the watch. Give that person your support so you can see the video yourself. And hopefully we can all watch it together. I may have a watch party. I'm going to have popcorn and alcohol or something to that effect. Or maybe that's the day for 420. All of us just get wasted and just watch the video and just clown out. That should be amazing. That should be a lot of fun. So that's the first part. Second part, let's hop across the pond. Hop across the pond. Brexit. We're talking about Brexit. It is getting very clear that the no-deal Brexit is probably where we're headed. Now, I don't say that with any level of, joy or, for that matter, any level of animosity. I say it in an odd perspective of what I think to be objectivity. Now, everyone thinks objectivity is objectivity. And you've heard me say objectivity doesn't exist. But so I can define my terms. I just mean I have nothing to gain in any of this. I look at this as if I'm a man sitting on the moon because for all intents and purposes, in this particular case, I am a man sitting on the moon. At least in relation to what's taking place in Britain. I don't want Brexit, nor do I not want Brexit. I literally nothing Brexit. And so when I make commentary about this, I don't make commentary from any particular disposition of want or not. I make it from, are people going to be hurt? That's it. And what are people saying versus how is it lining up in the real world? So when I make commentary on this, that's my point of view on this. Theresa May's government is disintegrating before our eyes. The people who are giving Brexit any level of heft fell away. Boris Johnson, gone. David Davis, gone. There's a guy that worked with David Davis, gone. In fact, there were a few other people who fell off, people who weren't necessarily as known, disintegrating, falling away. This is something amazing. This government is in massive negotiations that is going to have ramifications for Britain, severe ramifications for Britain, and they're fading away. Now, a lot of people thought there might have been a plan. There might have been something that they had an ace in their sleeve. I mean, they've taken years, like 2 years to come up with this plan. And somewhere along the way, I think, at least me, it dawns on you that there is no plan. The Chequers plan was the plan. And that's the plan they're going with for the negotiations. Now, if indeed the Chequers plan is the plan, then there is no plan. Because the Chequers plan is dead on arrival. And the stuff that they've been adding to the Chequers plan, meaning the Brexiteers, or for that matter, the Remainers, in this kind of tug of war back and forth, is for all intents and purposes made the plan dead on arrival. The odd theater of this is the plan was dead on arrival the moment it was conceived because the European Union was not going to accept the plan that Theresa May was putting forward. I didn't even think that was in question. But that's the plan they're going with. Now, don't take my word for it. This is the European negotiator himself talking about it. Barnier dismisses Theresa May's Brexit white paper demands, and you can go further into it and hear Barnier say it himself, where he essentially picks apart the plan. I'll play a little bit of it just so you can get the flavor for what's taking place. But just so we're clear, the European Union is a rules-based organization. And if you want access to the single market, what the European Union is going to say, you have to follow our rules. Now, whether they're doing this to be punitive, it's hard to say. From the standpoint of the European Union, you can understand Britain decided to leave. They are not going to give Britain a sweetheart deal. You have other countries that are more Eurosceptic in the European Union now, who can also potentially may opt to leave. What's the optics of Britain leaving and getting an awesome deal and leaving, where her options are better with her out than in? What would be the incentive structure created if other countries see that? And for that matter, do you believe that other countries in the European Union are incentivized at all to give Britain any kind of good deal? They're not. And they're going to stay by the same thing. We're a rules-based organization. If you want access to our single market, you have to go by the rules that the other member states have to go by. And that's essentially what he's saying. This is Barnier picking apart Theresa May's paper.
Agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, even if we want to reach a deal, it is also our responsibility to be prepared for all scenarios, including a no deal. Border between Northern Ireland and the rest. On my last visit in Ireland and Northern Ireland a few weeks ago, where I engaged with stakeholders across both communities. Let me simply recall the commitment taken by Prime Minister Theresa May to have a backstop in her letter to President Tusk in March, and the respect of this commitment is essential. And I made clear yesterday to Dominic Raab that we are not asking for a border between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK. What we need is checks on goods, because the UK wants to leave the single market, the customs union, and our common commercial policy. We cannot afford to lose time on this issue, and this is why we have invited the UK to work on the backstop next week. We are open to any solutions, as long as they are workable and can be transformed into a legally operative text in time for the withdrawal agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, even if we want to reach a deal, it is also our responsibility to be prepared for all scenarios, including a no deal. As the European Council said, we have to step up preparation at all levels for all scenarios. And the communication adopted yesterday by the Commission should be read in this context. We are encouraging national administrations and companies to use the time we have, which is short, very short, to accelerate this preparation.
The European Union realizes that there's no consensus, even within the Theresa May government itself, meaning you have these people who are at odds. But even what she can come up with from the standpoint of that paper, it's a fail. It's a fail. Britain would have to come closer to the European Union's position if Britain wants some kind of deal. And do you honestly believe that the Brexiteers, who are working behind the scenes, potentially going to cause a vote of no confidence for Theresa May, meaning that is a threat that's lingering in the air, that was strong enough to literally to get the government to back their amendment, even though the government was originally against the amendment for the tariffs, to collect tariffs, or to get the EU to collect tariffs. A poison pill for all intents and purposes. Do you believe that that government will be able to move closer to the European Union position? I'm highly doubtful. That speech, him talking right there, was essentially saying, look, we need to prepare for a no-deal scenario because it seems like Britain is going to crash outside of the European Union. Now, that said, with the white paper itself, and here's another one, let's button it more succinctly. The EU's Brexit negotiator May's Chequers plan incompatible with the bloc's guidelines. I'm putting all these articles at the bottom for you to read for yourselves. I've gone through the articles. I mean, this is not the focus on what I want to get at. I'm trying to make 2 points here. First point. The British government is trying to come up with a plan that they can present to the European Union so they can have their negotiations. The plan that these guys have been arguing and fighting over, that members of her cabinet have been falling apart over and is believing her cabinet over. All of this chaos, all of this fighting within the European in the UK. And the plan is, for all intents and purposes, already dead on arrival. The reason why the European Union is talking about a no-deal Brexit is because they consider the Chequers plan is not a plan. If this is what they're offering, we are going to crash out of the European Union. Now, within the context of knowing this, a weird event took place with Theresa May trying to explain her plan, meaning collecting tariffs. She's come up with this max facilitation. She's trying to come up with a way to not have a border in an area that would need a border. Essentially, we need to keep track of goods and services that are coming in and out, and we need to collect the tariffs that are necessary for goods that are coming into the EU or leaving the EU, or coming into the UK or leaving the UK. Listen to her try to explain this. And if you're as baffled as I am at the end of this, you're not alone. And one last point, Boris Johnson. I want to show Boris Johnson before I show this. Boris Johnson gives a speech. He's standing in there's historical context to this. He's standing in a spot where a previous, I can't think of the guy's name, but it's a famous speech that was given in Britain, going after Margaret Thatcher. And in this speech, the gentleman who went after Margaret Thatcher went after her relentlessly on Europe, essentially saying that Margaret Thatcher was a Eurosceptic and all this other stuff, and that she wasn't reaching out to Europe, and this was problematic, that Britain needs to be part of the European process. I mean, it was a damn good speech. He had the house roaring. At the same token, he was putting knives in Margaret Thatcher like nobody's business. The catch is, Boris Johnson didn't go that far, and Boris Johnson even pulled his support from having Theresa May put on the chopping block. But he's standing in the exact same place of that particular guy when Margaret Thatcher's head ended up on the chopping block herself. He wasn't the one that replaced him. And British politics has this interesting thing where the person who actually does the attack can never be the person who's the prime minister, because you can't take out your own prime minister and be prime minister. It's fascinating politics. Let's take a little bit, listen to Boris Johnson, just to hear this wistful man dreaming about Brexit.
Intellectually undesirable in the context of the argument. And somehow, after the December joint report, whose backstop arrangement we were all told was entirely provisional, never to be invoked, it became taboo even to discuss technical fixes. So, Mr. Speaker, after 18 months of stealthy retreat, we have come from the bright certainties of Lancaster House to the Chequers agreement, and you put them side by side. Lancaster House said laws will once again be made in Westminster. Yeah. Chequers says there will be an ongoing harmonisation with a common EU rulebook. Lancaster House said it would be wrong to comply with EU rules and regulations without having a vote on what those rules and regulations are. Chequers now makes us rules takers. Lancaster House said we don't want anything that leaves us half in, half out, and we do not seek to hold on to bits of membership as we leave. Chequers says that we will remain in lockstep on goods and agri-foods and much more besides, with disputes ultimately adjudicated by the European Court of Justice. Far from making laws in Westminster, there are large sectors in which ministers will have no power to initiate, innovate, or even deviate. After decades in which UK ministers have gone to Brussels and expostulated against costly EU regulation, we are now claiming that we must accept every jot and tittle for our economic health with no say of our own and no way of protecting our businesses and entrepreneurs from rules now and in the future that may not be in their interests. My right honourable friend, the Chancellor, was asked to identify the biggest single opportunity from Brexit. After some thought, he said regulatory innovation. Well, there may be some regulatory innovation post-Brexit, but it won't be, alas, coming from the UK, and certainly not in those areas. We are volunteering for economic vassalage, not just in goods and agri-foods, but we will be forced to match EU arrangements on the environment and social affairs and much else besides. And of course, we all want high standards, but it is hard to see, I say to my honourable friends, it is hard to see how the Conservative government of the 1980s could have done its vital supply-side reforms with those freedoms taken away.
He believes it. He's a believer. Whatever you want to say about Boris Johnson, he's in this moment, he is in his feelings about Brexit. He's in his feelings about Brexit. He wants this particular thing to take place, and he at one point believed that Britain was going to be able to be its own man again, and we could stand our own on the corners of the Europe and all this other stuff. He believed it. He believed it. And by the way, he's also right about something that Jeremy Corbyn needs to be aware of. It is possible that the reforms that Jeremy Corbyn wants to implement would not be possible under the thumb of the European Union. Meaning, as long as they're staying in this kind of regulatory alignment with the European Union, it's possible he may not be able to implement what he wants to implement. That's assuming, that's if they stay, or if they stay in this kind of regulatory alignment. But at this point, it looks like they're going to crash out of the European Union at Mach speed. All right. Theresa May being questioned. And yeah, it's a lot of wood to chop to get to this point, but I kind of want to give this idea of what's the context of this. All of this is taken around. People leaving her cabinet. And this Chequers plan, to some degree, is dead on arrival. And now, this plan that's dead on arrival needs to be explained. And listen to Theresa May try to explain just this one point of the plan. How is the tariff plan going to work?
First of all, what we are doing is delivering on a vote that was taken by the British people. Parliament voted 6-1 to give the British people the choice as to whether... Well, that's fine, but I'm sorry, because the alternative to what you're suggesting is actually staying in the European Union.
So you accept economic damage there?
No, I'm not accepting that. You are you're talking about the position we're in terms of the negotiations for leaving the European Union. The reason we're doing they have said they want us to leave the EU, and that is what the government will deliver. In delivering on it, we're delivering on what people voted for, like an end to free movement, but we're also ensuring that we do it in a way that protects jobs. That's what the Chequers Agreement delivers. That's what the White Paper delivers.
We'll have a referendum in Scotland to discuss that. Thank you.
Come on now to Home Affairs and Yvette Cooper.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Now, just return to the issue of the borders. Under the proposal for the Facilitated Customs Agreement, are you still proposing that EU countries will not have to collect any additional or different tariffs for the UK?
No, if you look at the concept of reciprocity is in the White Paper.
Yes, but
the concept of reciprocity is in the White Paper. What we are proposing is that there would be, what we propose in the White Paper is a formula arrangement, so that there would be a formula agreement for the sums of money that would be collected by the UK for those goods that were coming not just to the UK but into the European Union through the UK, and a sum of money that would be related to those goods that would enter the European Union destined for the United Kingdom.
Okay, it sounds really complicated. Just start with what happens at the border.
It's not formula agreements, the things that are involved exist elsewhere.
Just start with what's happening at the border first. At our border, we will collect EU tariffs for goods that are heading to the EU. Will we or won't we expect EU countries to collect our tariffs on goods that are destined to the UK?
What we have put in the white paper, what we expect is that EU countries, we say EU countries, in fact, the way the EU does this is not necessarily through the individual countries in terms of the way the payments are made, but that the sums of money that would be relevant for goods that are entering the European Union destined for the United Kingdom would be paid to the UK.
But if
so there would be a reciprocity in payments.
Okay, but if we have different levels of tariffs, it says very clearly, at least I thought it was clear, in page 17, however, the UK is not proposing that the EU applies the UK's tariffs and trade policy at its border for goods intended for the UK. Is that still the case?
What we are proposing, but as you will see in that paragraph, earlier in that paragraph, the UK proposes a tariff revenue formula taking account of goods destined for the UK entering via the EU and goods destined for the EU entering via the United Kingdom. The important thing here is there is reciprocity in the sums of money that would be paid. So what we're saying is a good would not enter the European Union destined for the UK without the European Union being expected, or through the arrangement, money to be recognised as being due to the UK as a result of that.
So suppose we have different levels of tariffs. Let's suppose we have lower tariffs on goods coming from the US and Europe has lower tariffs on goods coming from New Zealand, for example. We would then collect the higher EU tariffs on the goods coming from the US when they came in through Liverpool or through wherever. Would we expect goods coming into the EU from New Zealand, would we expect the EU to collect higher tariffs for us, or would we expect them to apply their own EU tariffs at the border?
What I'm saying, and what the paragraph says, is that this is not a question of somebody physically handing cash over at the border. The way we would deal with this would be a formula revenue agreement between the European Union and the United Kingdom, which would reflect the goods, what was required for goods that were entering the European Union destined for the UK, just as it would, the money relevant to the EU would reflect goods coming in to the United Kingdom and destined for the European Union.
But a payment's still got to be made somewhere. So if these goods are coming in from New Zealand and they're arriving at a port in Italy, for example, or in Spain or somewhere, and we've got a higher tariff on those goods from New Zealand, where is that higher tariff paid? Is it paid when the goods arrive in Spain or in Italy, or is it not paid when the goods arrive in Spain or Italy?
There will be, as I say, a formula agreement with the European Union in terms of the sums of money.
I'm interested in the business, the importer, when do they pay?
Importers will be under a requirement to ensure that they have paid the correct tariffs.
To Spain or to Italy?
What matters is what money comes to the United Kingdom.
I know, I just don't know how we're going to get it if they haven't paid the extra money.
Well, there's two elements. I've said to this, we're having a formula, tariff revenue formula, an agreement with the European Union, which relates to the sums of money that are due from one side to the other in the movement of goods. Now,
but the formula only applies to what happens between the governments.
Yes,
what happens, when's this importer going to pay the extra money? Are they going to pay the extra money when the goods arrive in Spain or Italy? Or are we going to have to charge them when those goods get transferred across from Spain across to the UK? How are we going to make sure that the importer pays the fair tariffs?
Well, we are. First of all, there is going to be a requirement on businesses to ensure that they are paying the correct tariffs. But that I think what I'm saying is that the overall concern from the United Kingdom is surely to ensure that the arrangement we have with the European Union is relevant to and reflects the flow of goods between both. The nature of tariffs that are relevant in relation to goods coming from different places, and that money is therefore able to be exchanged between the two in relevant sums between the two.
But you can't exchange money that's not been paid. So I still don't understand. The importer, when are they paying the extra tariffs? If we've got different tariffs in the UK compared to the EU, because that, as I understand it, is what you want to happen. You want us to be outside the common external tariff. You want us to have different tariffs to the rest of the EU. If we have those different tariffs, where's the money going to be paid?
What matters to us in terms of having, first of all, one of the reasons for being able to have different tariffs is actually being able to lower your tariffs so that you can encourage trade around the world. So you're rather assuming that there's going to be certain circumstances in which the United Kingdom is going to say, well, actually, we're going to charge higher tariffs than the European Union is charging. What matters is that we have an agreement such that for goods that are crossing the border, the money that is paid between the European Union and the United Kingdom reflects those goods. Now, obviously, this is part of the proposal that we're putting forward to the European Union, and there will be elements of this that we will be discussing with them and negotiating in terms of exactly how that tariff revenue agreement would be entered into.
But here's the problem. So I'm really baffled as to what's going to happen and how these differential tariffs are going to work. I'm even more baffled because we've still got this statement in the white paper which says that we're not going to have the EU applying the UK's tariffs and trade policies at the border, but you accepted an amendment, the new clause 36, yesterday, 2 days ago, which requires this reciprocity, and the government will account to HMRC for those duties and taxes collected in that country on a reciprocal basis. So we don't have reciprocal arrangements, whether it's at our border in Liverpool or at the border in Spain and Italy. And isn't the problem that the reason we seem to be going round in circles on this is because don't you have a problem that you're just actually not being straight about the language and about what it is you're actually proposing? And so everybody's confused, and as a result, nobody trusts what the government is doing.
I've been very straight about the language. I've been very straight about what not just straight in saying it, but it's published in the white paper. What we are proposing is a reciprocal agreement with the European Union in relation to the exchange of tariffs that are paid on external borders for goods entering the United Kingdom destined for the EU and for goods entering the European Union destined for the United Kingdom.
And you hope this is going to be in place and working by 2021?
Good luck.
Did you want to answer?
Well, I answered the question about from our point of view, the future customs arrangement will indeed, the facilitated customs agreement will indeed be, we're aiming to negotiate for
it
that
is
to
baffling.
be. From
it
our,
really is.
Sorry?
It is baffling.
We're going to move on now.
I'm not sure what is baffling about us exchanging sums of money that are relevant to both parties, but there we are.
We're now going to move on to the science and technology.
I don't know, man. That's baffling to me. I understand it in principle, what she's trying to say. This it's like, if we have a tariff, you have a tariff. When items are coming from one place to the next, you're collecting the tariff depending upon where it's coming from, meaning the tax. The point that the woman was trying to make is, what does it look like in practice? Like, yeah, intellectually, people understand what a tax is. But when are you collecting that money if you're not going to collect it at the point of the border? I think that's what the woman is trying to get at. How are you, what system, not just this is what it is, but how does it work in practice? And that's what she's trying to get the Prime Minister to say. And I think the catch is the Prime Minister can't fully say it, because I don't think she fully has it. It's just, we need to do this. What does it matter? We just need to do this. We need to come up with a system to do this. And the woman is like, yeah, but how? What does that system look like? Explain it to me. What does it look like? How do you do it in real terms? If it's in Spain, when does the person get the money from Spain to the UK and vice versa? God, that's amazing. Yeah, that's a rough one. That is a rough one. Let's see. Look, I'll put it this way. It looks like they're going for a no-deal Brexit. And I know there are some people who say that this is going to be used in a way in order to keep Britain in the European Union. I don't know. It doesn't seem like they have a plan. And the Chequers plan seems to be dead on arrival as is. And she can't even get her own government to agree on a plan that's dead on arrival. So, go figure. But up to this point, this is Brexit. And this is where we are with the Brexit episode. This one has gone extremely long, but I hope it gets it across what's taking place. Like, god damn it, it's 30 minutes. I didn't want it to be 30 minutes. But I hope it explains it. I hope it explains it. Let's see. That woman made a complete mockery of our democracy. Brian Raver. I'm shocked that she's still in office, if I'm being honest. But, you know, it's one thing. When I saw that, I said to myself, God, I don't want that to be Jeremy Corbyn. Like, I don't want Corbyn being asked questions and like that. And he even looking that bad, not being able to answer the questions. She looked bad. She looked bad. And that wasn't the only one where she was looking bad. There were a few where she was like, Gregory Howe, that's it. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Gregory Howe. Gregory Howe. Calculated failures. So I've heard that argument too. That she's failing on purpose in order to keep them into the into the EU. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. It seemed like she is trying, like she's a technocrat that is doing her best in a divided parliament. I guess it's possible. It's possible, but fuck, man. And she is fighting for her seat. Corbyn will look the same. Creative experiments. Creative experiments, I gotta be honest with you. He might. He might. Because his plan, I would argue, is just unworkable. Is just as unworkable as hers. And so his only luxury here is just not being in power to have to pull the country through Brexit. That being said, the government collapse under the weight of this, which is just amazing. Corbyn is aware of how customs and tariffs work. Patrick McDermott. Well, one of the other things, Corbyn is not trying to do this plan. This is Theresa May's own magic. The Narnia plan. Essentially, you know, she's adding two things together that the European Union had already didn't necessarily like. So, why doesn't she leave? Yeah, she's holding on to that seat like grim death. Yeah, she's not going anywhere. Not going anywhere. All right, this one is dragged on long enough. I think that's everything. I mean, everything I can think of associated with this. This video has gone way, way too long. Way too long. Mesmerized. Labour needs to embrace Brexit and try to get nationalisation onto the table. Use food and the Grenfell fire to get the people hands into their soup. It's not a bad idea. The problem is, if you embrace it, you're going to also embrace all the pain associated with it. Like, and there will be short-term pain associated with it. Hey, maybe you can use that pain, blame the Conservatives, and push through your Labour agenda. Maybe. I mean, this may require crafty politics. It's also possible that the Theresa May government may collapse over this. I mean, this is fascinating politics. It's fascinating politics. Labour has 6 tests for any Brexit deal. If it doesn't comply, then no Brexit. And the funny part about this is Jeremy Corbyn, as far as I can understand it, was a Eurosceptic up to this point. When we talk about Sanders, and I say that there's a such thing as political wins, where there's a political headwind on certain issues, Brexit was one of those headwinds. And even though Corbyn apparently in the past was a Eurosceptic for this, he supported Brexit. They say half-heartedly, but he supported it nonetheless. All right, going to end this. Thank you guys for coming to the show. It's 3:27 in the morning, so I have no expectation of my American audience being up, but I may seem to have a few Brits here, so welcome to the Soapbox. Thank you for joining me. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone. And